jedes soll stehen bei dir Redes, unser schwur Herrn soll nicht zerbrochen werden. Oh, der Brunnen modern und die Katz, oh, die sollen sein wie schwer, jedes zu unser schwur. Als wer noch von uns wird brechen das Wort, sie allein sollen dort verlangen, auf Not, Rache, Rache in einem Fort. Das wird aber kein Mal bei uns nicht geschehen, weil zusammengeführt hat uns nur Gott allein. Gott allein heißt es, das Herz allein trägt es, die Liebe allein weiß es, wir bleiben getreu. Gott allein heißt es, das Herz allein weiß es, die Liebe allein trägt es, wir bleiben getreu. Ewig getreu, ewig getreu, wir bleiben ewig getreu, getreu.
Welcome to Conversations. Our guest today, for the second of a two-part chat, is Zalman Mlotek, Artistic Director of the Folksbiene National Yiddish Theater. Conversations is Lehman College's series of discussions with major theater and musical figures of our time. Welcome again, Zalman.
Thank you. Thank you.
That beautiful piece that you played is from the your Goldfaden concert that you're doing, the Gekommenes die Zeit.
Yes.
What was it about?
The series of concerts that we're doing for CUNY, where this was the romantic duet from the operetta Shulamis. Shulamis was...
Or in English, Shulamith.
Yes, a heroine. This was one of Goldfaden's romantic operettas written in the style of the 19th century romantic novel, with really the soap opera of the day. And in this song, what you just heard was the passionate expression of the two heroines, hero and heroine, declaring their love for each other and saying, where do we find witnesses to make sure that our love will be holy and eternal? And they see a cat running by, and they're by a well. So they say, oh, this cat and oh, this well will be our witnesses, and forever and ever.
Was that a serious witnesses, or were they? Was it whimsy or?
No, I think it was. I mean, they wanted to have the event documented, I would just imagine, and there were the only two living things.
That's charming.
I mean,
really
a well
charming.
isn't living, but it was functional.
We were talking last time about the heyday of the Yiddish theater on 2nd Avenue, and you did a wonderful show called 2nd Avenue that documents this golden era of Yiddish theater, and we have a video of that.
New York, 2nd Avenue.
Sadie, die Lady, wie ella sie singt, Sommer bei Nacht auf dem Dach.
Jossel der Bossel, gibt ihr a Wink, schmeichelt zu ihr und lacht, ha, ha, ha.
Sie sagt, ich bin edel, ein anständig Mädel, der wart nicht von mir, kein schon Sach.
Ich schwör bei die Stern, ich will dein Mann werden,
Hoi Sommer bei Nacht auf dem Dach. My child, oh, where is my child? Ich bin ein Mann mehr, nur wie ist mein Kind? Ich bin ein Mann mehr bin ich, was Leid von ihr sehen. bin a Mame, mir ist fein a Weidenstein, a Chippe in die Mame, Tor dabei nicht sein.
Vacation-Zeit, a jedes Jahr, fahren die Weiber in die Country go. Sie haben dort ein Pleasure, ein Leben bequem.
Yo-ho, Sophie. We playing today. Why should we play? Why? What, you got something better to do?
It's just that I'm a little short. No cash.
My Sally sends me a check every Wednesday.
That's because he knows you play cards every Tuesday. A check every Wednesday. It's time for a little letter to Jackie.
Ot seinen die Brief, was sie schreiben heim.
Meine Teier Jackele, schick mir a Checkele, weil die Weiber willen spielen Kurden und ich will sein in der Game. Ich dein Beckele, wart auf dein Checkele. Gedenk, honey, schick the money, and die bleibt gesinnt in der Heim. How big is it? A bissl Sinn, a bissl Regen, a ruhig aus dem Kopf zu legen, a wir sind, können glücklich sein. A Schiech, a Sock, a Kleid und Lattes, ein Kästchen, a drei, vier Slottes, a wir sind, können glücklich sein. Die Luft ist frei vor jeden Gleier, die Sinn, sie scheint vor jeden eine Murmelei. Bist du frei, da bist du lachen, mit Freund das Schnaps zu machen, wie wir sind, können glücklich sein.
The last piece was sung by, of course, by Molly Picant.
Right.
A great genius of a performer.
A writer, also a translator of many Yiddish songs into English, and of course was one of those few who crossed over to the American Hollywood stage by being, her last performance was in the movie of Fiddler on the Roof as Yenta, of course.
She performed on television. She was a major star in both Yiddish and English. When did you do that show, Second Avenue? That was.
Well, we first did it. My cousin and I, Moshe Rosenfeld and I, compiled it about I'd say 15 years ago, and it was done originally with the late Bruce Adler, who was unfortunately passed away a few months ago. He was an amazing actor, Tony-nominated Yiddish performer and Broadway performer as well. And he was in the original. And we did that as a tribute to the amazing output of creativity that accompanied Second Avenue when there were 15, 16 Yiddish theaters going on simultaneously, with shows going on every day of the week, including Shabbos at the time. People come to me and say, we don't go to the Yiddish theater because they assume we play on Shabbos. Well, since I took over, we don't play on Shabbos, on the Sabbath.
But in the heyday,
in the heyday, they played. Sometimes they had 3 shows a day: 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 8 o'clock.
And the effect of this Yiddish theater was felt in English-speaking theater. You had the Adler family, the Tomaszewskis, the countless stars. Kirk Douglas had his origins in Yiddish theater.
Right. I mean, what was going on Second Avenue was so exciting to the rest of the city and the rest of the world, because here was an immigrant culture taking their language and presenting the works of Ibsen, Shakespeare, and presenting them in Yiddish. They would sometimes say, verteidigt und verbessert, translated and made a little bit better, you know, for the Yiddish stage, of course. But there are wonderful stories about how, you know, the Hamlet became Hamlet the Yeshiva Bacha, the Yeshiva, or and the Yiddish King Lear, of course. But these were not comedic plays. These were faithful adaptations of the original works, and for the first time, Jews who were not able to either read these original works or ever see them on the stage were seeing them. So what was going on to the rest of the world, Broadway wasn't really in happening at the time, and people from the arts community would come down and see what was going on 2nd Avenue. Great Maurice Schwartz, Paul Muni Weisenfreund came from the Yiddish theater, and so there was
Edward G. Robinson,
Edward G. Robinson, Tony Randall, Danny Kaye, Walter Matthau. They all talk about their origin, Sidney Lumet.
So this was a major influence in Broadway and Hollywood, major influence.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I do a whole program where I talk about the musical influences of the music, of how the music of 2nd Avenue influenced later composers or composers at the same time, like Gershwin and Berlin and even Bernstein to some extent.
Do you mean via jazz and via the blues?
Even more direct by melodies that they heard. You know, George Gershwin talks about hearing his mother sing to him, "Schlaf mein Fegele, mach zu die Egelach, schlaf mein Taya Kind." Well, years later he wrote, "My one and only, what are you going to do if you turn me down? I am so crazy over you." So it's pretty clear that, you know, he heard it from his mother, who went to the Yiddish theater. So.
It's very clear when you see Danny Kaye how influenced he was by
particularly by Aaron Lebedev, the great song and dance man of the time. Everyone came to see Aaron Lebedev. He was a sensation. He was a song and dance man. He had a gift of patter. You know, his Romania was his trademark. But this was a phenomenon, and people came to see it.
Which Danny Kaye eventually sang.
Right.
Most of the music that we've heard today, a good deal of it has been light, but there was a very serious side to it, Yiddish music at this in the 20s and the 30s, and I was really struck by one song that you played for me last week. I want you to play for our audience, Bridelach Tyra.
Yeah. Well, what's so interesting about that particular song, but many of
Tell us what it means.
Bridelach Tyra means dear brothers, and it was written in the 30s here in America as a kind of a, I don't want to say an olive branch, but a good wishes for their brothers and sisters that were in Europe and were not able to get out of Europe. So
it was pre-Holocaust.
Pre-Holocaust, but certainly certainly people knew what was going on, and things were bad all over Eastern Europe, Germany in particular. But what's so interesting about the songs, why I feel these songs are so important, why the Yiddish theater is so important, because it brings to life these songs, these moments that really give a picture of Jewish life in a way that a textbook can't ever do that, or a research in a library won't ever do that. But if you hear a song written by somebody and you hear it sung, and you imagine it being sung at the time, Bridelach Tyra says, Bridelach Tyra, helft uns in der Noit, help us in our need. Landsleit Eire felt a stickel Breut. Your people from your own town don't have bread to eat. Kinderlach gehen dort Borvis in der Kält. Children are going there barefoot in the cold. Schickt schon schnell die Päckelach. So send quickly the packages. Wir darfen Schirch und Säckelach. We need shoes and socks. Wenn wird schon werden lichtig unser Welt. When will our life have a little bit of light? So if you imagine this song sung in the 30s, on the stages of the Yiddish theater to masses of people here who had no way of connecting with their brethren, you know, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, grandparents, cousins on the other side. You imagine, you understand the impact.
Who wrote the song?
Lazarovich.
And who wrote the lyrics?
I think Lazarovich did the music and lyrics.
Could you play it for us, please?
Sure. Brüderlach, Teiere, helft uns in der Neut. Landsleid, Eiere, fällt a Stickel Bräut. Kinderlach gehen dort, Borwes in der Kält. Schickt schon schnell die Päckerlach, wir darfen Schirch und Säckerlach. Wenn wird schon werden lichtig unser Welt. Helft, helft.
That was so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
We spoke very, very in passing about your parents knowing my uncle. Could you tell me something about your folks?
Sure. My mother is still with us, bis 120, as they say, until 120. She is the music archivist at the YIVO Institute at the Center of Jewish History. She works 3 days a week. She is a walking encyclopedia of this work. I say that without any exaggeration. People from all over the world contact her for words, lyrics, a song was performed, a show was done, and it's all there. And she knows also where to find it in the archives. My father, who passed away 8 years ago, was Joseph Mlotek, was the educational director of the Workman Circle for many years, and an editor of the Forward, the Yiddish newspaper. So together, they created a column called Pearls of Yiddish Poetry, where they would encourage readers to send in remnants that they remembered. A reader would remember, I have this tune in my head, I know 3 words, but can you identify it? And they would get hundreds and hundreds of requests, and my mother and father would research it and send back where the song was, and sometimes publish it in the paper. The most fascinating thing happened to me in Warsaw. I walked into shul on Friday night, and I'm sitting next to an older gentleman, and I figured I could speak to him in Yiddish, and sure enough I could, and I start to talk to him, and I tell him my name. He says, Chanelis? Du bist Chanelis? Chanel is my mother. You say, you're Chanelis? And I'm looking at him like, who could this man be? So he says, she doesn't know me, but I've been writing to her for years.
Oh, my God.
And we've been writing to each other because this man in Jerusalem writes back every week of what songs he remembers and stuff like that. So.
My uncle had a column in the
Yes,
Forward
he did.
called Sprachwinkel.
Sprachwinkel.
Yeah, knowledge of language.
Yeah.
And is there a Yiddish theater in Israel?
There is, actually, yeah. They're very lucky that they're funded by the state. We are not funded by the state.
Right.
We're not funded by anybody except for people like anybody who is listening who care enough to see this material and culture and phenomenon really continue. We're very grateful to the Chancellor of this city university for his support for these programs that brings programs like this to the wider community, and we're always looking for support. But the Yiddish theater in Israel does get the support from the
What's the
government.
theater? What's it like? What's the Yiddish theater like?
It's quite professionally run. They have sometimes shows, with 25 people on the stage, bands of 8, beautiful costumes and sets. These are funded by the state. They have their actors are on salary throughout the year, so that they
Oh my
can.
God.
So I mean, people here in America can appreciate what that means to be in a national theater where, whether they're working or not, they're on retainer. So that's quite an unusual thing. So we don't have that luxury, but they function throughout the year, and they perform in Tel Aviv, and they tour around the country.
In Yiddish.
In Yiddish, yes, with in their case, Hebrew subtitles.
Now, you have Russian subtitles for the many Russian Jewish immigrants.
Yes, they say that every fourth Jewish immigrant person today is of Russian origin today in America. And so we felt very strongly about including this new population, new and old population, that would appreciate hearing it and seeing the Russian translation as well.
Your theater activity is just amazing. It's a very ambitious program. What do you have coming up that we should be aware of?
We have a very exciting show. We have the American premiere of Isaac Bashevis Singer's short story, A Gimple the Fool. This is one of Isaac Bashevis Singer's most popular short stories, and we have
Who dramatized it?
the great honor of having Moshe Yasur, who is a Romanian playwright and director, now living in America, to direct the play. So we're already cast. We go into rehearsals in October. We open in November, and we only play for 5 weeks.
November of 2008.
2008 to November 23rd, we opened previews, and we close at the end of December. It's a new musical with music by a Romanian composer named Radu Kaptari, and I'll have a little klezmer band with it, and it's quite a wonderful adaptation. And all young people in the cast. I mean, some of the stories I could tell you about how these people came to audition would be fascinating to you.
Well, tell me.
Well, one in particular, one person came in, absolutely knew no Yiddish, and he auditioned for one role. And when he left, the three of us who looked at each other, and do you think this is a possible Gimple? Because we were looking for somebody to play the main role of Gimple. And he didn't know Yiddish, so he was learning it phonetically. But of course, because he was an actor, a trained actor, he knew everything he was saying. So he came in with tremendous expression, and he came back and he did it for us, and we were just blown away by him. And we said, we all thought about his Yiddish, whether it was going to be an obstacle to teach him to get it so natural, so that a Yiddish speaker in the audience wouldn't be able to really detect that his Yiddish isn't. I think we'll manage to do that. He has a tremendous, fantastic ear, and very dedicated. His name is Adam Shapiro. Adam Shapiro.
Irish.
Yes. Right. And the female star, I just want to tell you, is Daniela Rabbani, who is of Sephardic origin, also knew no Yiddish before, comes from the Stella Adler Institute, and came to us because of her interest, and she was in our troupe for many years. And she came in, and she auditioned for also one of the lesser roles, and she walked out, and we said, this is a possible Elka, who plays the wife, who is also the town prostitute. And she came back 20 minutes later after looking at the script, completely transformed. From the way she walked into the room, we already knew that this was somebody who had already taken the whole role and transformed herself into this character, and also a non-Yiddish speaker. So the two leads are people, in their early 20s, non-Yiddish speakers. So it's quite exciting for us.
Now, you have a program for young people. Tell me about that.
We have two programs for young people. We have a program, this outreach group, which is made up of people who want to perform in Yiddish. But we also have a program called Kids in Yiddish, a family show. It's sort of a Sesame Street meets Saturday Night Live, where in small segments, whether they're skits or parodies, we introduce the joys of Yiddish to children from 3 and up with their parents and grandparents, and it's quite interactive experience. It's totally fun, and it's Sunday mornings only Sunday mornings in December, just for 5 weeks.
I'm being told that we have to wind up. I thought a wonderful way of going out would be with Romania, Romania. It has been a great pleasure to have you on the show, and
thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
It's a great honor for me.
Also, I wanted to thank our studio audience and our home audience for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon for further conversations. Spiel.
Romania, 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 Romania. Gewen einmal ein Land, das süße, a schöne. Romania, 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 Romania. Gewen einmal ein Land, das süße, a feine. Dort zu wohnen ist a Vergnügen, was das Hals glist, was du gekannt kriegen. A Mameligele, a Pastramele, a Karnatzele. In a glazele Wein, ahu. In Rumänien ist doch geht, find kein Seige, sie weiß man nicht. Wein trinkt man weg sein Spät, man verweist mit Kastrowett. Hei digge digge dam, digge 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 dam, hei digge digge dam, digge digge dam, hei digge digge dam, digge 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 dam, digge digge dam, digge digge dam. Die Rumäner trinken Wein und essen Mammelige. Und wer es küsst sein eigen Weib, jener ist Mischige. Hoppa, kei diddly-dam, hoppa, kei diddly-dam, hoppa, kei diddly-dam, hoppa, kei diddly-dam. Heiß ist am Bechaie, besser kann es sein. Hei, Vergnügen ist das rumänisch Wein. Hei, Jecken, Picken, Mischen, Maim, Kischen, Kitschen, Treffen, Reihe, Sing, Kischen, Koddel, Kabes, macht der Schild, Hobbit, Schabes. Setz kei diddly-dam, setz kei diddly-dam, setz kei diddly-dam, setz kei diddly-dam. Heiß ist am Bechaie, besser kann es sein. Hei, Vergnügen ist das rumänisch Wein. Romania, 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 Romania.